Welcome to Blonde Cards and Crafts. Let's make something together. And if you're new here, you're very welcome. Today we're going to make this card using the Papercraft Society box 32. Inside the magazine, I loved the look of this card and I thought I wanted to do something similar to it. But I wanted to do something that when you open the card, there would be an interaction with it. So this is my version of that card. I don't have the bottles on the front. I have the pattern paper that I've made, and I'll show you how to do that as well. But this is what happens when you open the card. It's an inside explosion card or a pop-up explosion card. There's plenty of different names for it on YouTube, and there are loads of creators who have made this, and this is my version of it. So you can see here I have done it in blue. I've used the stamps, the dies, the embossing folder, and here we are with what we're going to make together, and this is a pink version of our blue one. So this is my focal piece for the front of the card. I'm keeping the front simple because I want the inside to be the thing you most look at. We will need 3 of these. I have 2 of them here, and these will go on the inside of our explosion. And I have stamped and colored the different stamps that's in the kit. And I'll leave a link down below so you can see the unboxing and see what comes in the kit if you haven't seen that already. We'll also need a couple of matte layers for our card. I have 3 of them here. One is stamped using the glasses and bubbles. One is stamped using the champagne bottle and corks. And one is using the champagne bottle, the glass, the cork and the bubbles. And that one will go on the front. And I also have this piece here that will be our layer, our matted layer on the front of the card. And I'll give you the measurements for those as we go through making our card. So we are going to start with a 6x6 card base, and for that you need a piece of 12x6, and I'm scoring it at 6 inches. I find it handy to pop the cardstock into my scoreboard like so. It allows the card to fold evenly. So I've burnished the score line there, and we're going to have this as a top opening card. So that's our card base. So then we'll have our 3 matte layers, and these are the papers that I've made, and I'll show you how to make them. All 3 of them are 5 3/4 by 5 3/4. I'll have one on the front, and then these 2 will go inside. And I love that, and I love this color pink. It's not cardstock that we got in the kit. This is the little Crelando cardstock. It's a thick cardstock. It's 280 GSM, and for the mechanism I would recommend a piece of 220 cardstock. This piece, it measures 8 by 8, and what we need to do is fold it in half. And again, I'll use the scoreboard just to help so that I get a nice even fold, but you don't need to do that. You can just fold it on your desk. The thing is to make sure everything is lined up together. Once I have that folded in half, again, I will burnish the score or the fold lines, just because I want a really good crease. Then I'm going to rotate it and fold it again. So once I have that nicely set in place, again, I'm going to burnish those fold lines. Now you could use your scoreboard and score these, but I find it just as easy to fold them. Now we want to put a diagonal fold into this. So the important thing is that when you fold it over, your 2 points line up exactly. Once those 2 points line up, when you press down and burnish the fold, then the point on the right and the left should be perfect, creased perfectly. Now this one didn't crease perfectly on the right, but it does crease perfectly for me on the left. But not to worry, once I realize it isn't sitting perfectly in its score, what I do is I bring it back up to the center points again, line those up and hold down tightly, and then I use the bone folder to finagle that score line or that fold line properly. You want really sharp points on the left and right hand side. Now we want to press in those fold lines, and I'm showing you in slow motion how I do that. I press in and press up, and we want our points in the middle. See where that score line is? We want that point right where my finger is to be nice and sharp in there. So again, I'm taking my time, I'm pushing up on that fold line and pushing up on the outside piece, and that'll bring it in nicely for us. And this really is an origami fold. It's, you know, that's what origami is. It's folding and burnishing your fold lines and then making the paper do something you want. So again, I'm holding down the cardstock, I'm pushing up on that fold line, bringing it up to the top, and then pushing forward on the front. And I think you can get the gist of that there. So now again, I'm going to burnish all those fold lines that we've put in, making sure that they're nice and sharp. And this is the shape for our explosion. I have two of the cream matte layers here, and they measure 3 3/4 by 3 3/4. They're going to sit in our mechanism like so. They are going in the squares that don't have the fold line running through the middle. So these two that do have the fold line, we're going to use the embossing folder that came in the kit. And I'm going to emboss these two now after I've done all my folding. It makes it easier. I want to make sure that my embossing folder sits between the two fold lines. Now I find with cardstock, if you give it a light misting of some water, and I have my spray bottle, it makes the embossing folder go through much nicer, and it doesn't crack or break the cardstock. I had a trial piece that I tried, and I found that on the crease lines, some of the circles, they were going through too hard through, so it was cutting. But this is because of the cardstock being so firm. So if you find you have an embossing folder and it cuts some places on your cardstock, give it a gentle mist of some water. Now I'm just reacquainting the cardstock with those diagonal fold lines, and you just need to take your time and, you know, gently coax them into position that they were in before they went through my big shot machine with the embossing folder. But that does come out really lovely, even in this cardstock, which I said is 280 GSM. I think a lighter cardstock would have been great as well. So now I'm ready to stick down my two panels. The top one has lovely bubbly, bring on the bubbles. I love that. And you'll see below the bubbles, under the word bubbles, that there is space. I'm going to die cut out the word relax, and we get one of the dies in the kit that die cuts that out. So now I'm going to show you how I made my pattern paper, and I have a plethora of the stamps out. I have the glass, the bubbles, the champagne bottle, the cork, and I'll use those all on this cardstock. Now those bubbles, they come as one piece. You can see there's quite a big gap, and that allowed me to cut my bubbles in half. I cut it at an angle, that way when I want to use it as all one stamp, I can nicely sit that into place. But this way it allows me to stamp as two rather than one large stamp. I have this Papercraft Society ink in my stash from a previous kit. I'm going to use that. And I want to kind of focus on putting on one side the glasses with the bubbles, and then on the other side the champagne bottle and the bubbles and corks. So because I need 3 panels, I want to be able to do 3 different styles. So yeah, I will do a third panel, and that'll be stamping the glasses, the champagne bottle, the cork, and the bubbles. And I'll also be stamping the word bubbly on the champagne bottles. But I'll do that off screen. I figure when you see what I'm doing here, you really don't need to watch me make the third panel. And the extra card that has the stamps on them that I don't use, I will keep that with you know, the pattern papers that come in the kit, and I'll be able to use that again in another card. So now you can see there, I've sped this up. We're in high speed, guys, because I didn't want it to be too long with me just stamping repeatedly, but I wanted you to have an idea and see what I'm doing. The bottles are stamped down randomly. I leave enough room that I can pop the corks in there as well, and also our bubbles. And once I have that done, then I'll be able to do the other side. You might notice as well, I'm stamping on a shiny white sheet. That is an A3 white sheet that I have laminated, and I use that when I'm doing something like this. When I'm stamping off the page, I'd rather stamp on a surface that I can wipe away rather than my mat that's on my desk. So hence the reason I have that down. And you can see there, I just have the little logo that I stamp on the back of my cards stamped in the corner, and there's one in the middle as well. It just, I have that there so I know this is the side that I actually stamp off of. This is the side that gets dirty. And the logo that I used, I recently got that made from a company in Ireland called Downland Crafts. They will manufacture stamps for you with whatever you want on them. So just thought I'd throw that out there and a shout out to a great Irish company. So I'm nearly finished now with this panel. I'm just stamping in all the little bubbles in all the little open spaces. And once I've that done, then I can cut it all down to size. And I love doing this. I love making my own pattern paper with stamps that I'll get in a stamp set. It really does make it so unique and individual, because no one else will have this pattern paper on their card. And even if I was to make more, I'll never be able to make the exact same pattern paper. So now I have cut down my panels, and I have 3 of them, and they measure 5 3/4 by 5 3/4. I'll put one on the front, and this is the one that I have stamped everything on. And then inside I'll put the other 2. The one with the champagne bottles, I'm going to put that down toward on the bottom panel. And then the one above that I'll put with the champagne bottles. And you see there, I'm using my Collal glue. It's a great glue. When it dries solid, so it's going to give strength to our card. Because this is an interactive card with a big mechanism inside, using this glue, which is, as far as I believe, it's very much like the Beacon 3-in-1 glue in America. I find it really great. So this is the third of the cream mats, measuring 3 3/4 by 3 3/4, and then the pink mat measures 3.5 by 3.5. I put some foam tape behind these, and that's just to raise it up a little from the front, so it gives a shadow going around the outside of that. Once I've that on straight, then I'll be able to pop down my Have a Bubbly Day. And I used my colouring pencils. These are the Brutfunner ones. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. So I'll just make sure that that's nice and centered on the front panel there. And that's the outside of our card done. We just need to embellish it using some of those lovely little glass droplets that we got. So here I'm measuring 3 inches in on the center, just below the score line. And I'm going to do the same as well down here at the bottom, just under where the point of our mechanism will go. I want to make sure those 2 points are centered within the card. That way I know it's going to be balanced, and when it opens, it won't open a little to the left or a little to the right. It will open perfectly in the middle of the card. So once I have one side down, I can add a little bit of glue to that, liquid glue again. Now you can always use your double-sided tape or whatever you find works best for you. I'm going to put a little weight on that. I have my spray bottle, but I went for a Stampin' Up! Punch. Those are heavy, let me tell you. But I want to add a little bit of weight onto that. I went and made a cup of tea. I got my Cheers and my Enjoy die cut out, as well as the Relax, and I'm going to add them in. So I'm going to put the Enjoy down at the bottom right hand side, and my Cheers then will go up in the left hand side. And I could have used some double-sided tape on the back of these when I die cut them out, so I wouldn't have to use glue. But I don't mind. I have a precision little tip on this bottle, and it gives me lovely little tiny dots of glue and makes it very easy for sticking things down. Now, this kind of, there was something about this card, even when I was done. I was like, it was just niggling me. And, I realized afterwards, just before I sat down to do the voiceover, and I was looking at the card, I realized what was bothering me. The cheers and the enjoy were die cut in white cardstock and not cream, which is what I use in all the rest of the card. So what I went and done is I went and die cut out the cheers and the enjoy in cream, and then I've stuck them down on top. So yeah, it's just a random thing out there, but are you like that? Is there little things that you'll do when you're making a card and they'll bug you and bug you and bug you until you change them? That's me. I'm a terror for doing that. I'll come back to a card and go, you know what could improve that if I did this or I did that? I'm awful for doing that. Anyway, I have my relaxed die cut out in this lovely pink, and I'm going to add that then on the panel that has the bring on the bubbles. I think it just pulls in the pink of the cardstock, putting it on the panel. So here's a look, rather than you looking down on the card, you're looking straight on to see how it looks. And I do love it. I just love how this opens out. I think it's a wow style of card, and it's really easy to make. I hope you'll give it a go. Once you make this once, you'll be like, oh my gosh, this is so cool. I'm going to make it again. And you can use it for anything, like for a big numbered birthday, or, passing your driving test, anything at all. Anyway, if you liked my video, I hope you give it a thumbs up. If you're a subscriber, thanks for subscribing. And if not, you might hit the subscribe button, and don't forget to click on the bell as well. So that's it. Until next time, thanks for watching. Stay safe and bye for now.